share the E-team on the folder so that they can see the financials? They're going to stay on for the
Can't
whole.
really get in that, but I can,
Can you just share the financials with them?
yeah.
Hey guys, hey everyone. The team on the folder. Hi, Jax. Jax said you said everyone. Hello, T. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Shamira, Dr. B, Yoakum, Hayes, Bundy, and Jackson. Do you have a good day? Did you have a good day at school? Yeah, good deal. That's Hayes's baby. What grade is he in? First, second?
Second grade today.
Yep. Next stop, college. Hey, Shamira. Welcome back, Shamira.
Hi, thank you.
How was your trip? Was it great? I know it was.
It was really good.
How long were you gone?
A little over a week.
Right, you were in Cannes, right?
We did Cannes, and Barcelona.
Wow. Nice. All right. Hey, Murkison.
Tracy,
How's your
I want to
Saturday?
let you know my granddaughter is in labor, and she had the text came from her dad that my son that she was at 9.5 centimeters at 5 o'clock, so an hour ago. So if I get distracted during the meeting, it's not because I'm not finding what you're saying fascinating. I just may get news, and so I may just flip out for a moment.
Wow. Wait, you said this is your granddaughter.
My
who's in
granddaughter.
labor. This is your great grandbaby?
We already have several great grandbabies. You know, that adoption thing let us
Yeah.
adopting older kids, we got to speed things up a little bit. So it's not that
Yeah.
I'm that old. I'm really not that old. Okay, just to be clear, in case that in case that's where you were going with that.
That's good stuff. Hi, Kimba. Hey, Lori. And Miss Wood, see you down there.
Hi.
Did you get the email from Terry, Kimba?
No, can you
Okay.
hear me? I'm having computer problems, so I am on my phone.
Oh,
Oh no, you see, I didn't get an email from Terry. I did get one from Sterling and Jen. Both are going. Sterling's going to be late because he's traveling, and Jen can't come today.
yeah, Terry's not going to be here because it's her anniversary today. So,
Oh, but that's lovely.
like Erin, she may be distracted for a different reason, but I guess we have to understand.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can at least get into my drive. Hold
Hello,
on,
everybody. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can see you and hear
Okay.
you.
Okay.
We
All
see
right.
you and we see Miss Wood. Hello.
Hello.
Miss Wood, how's your baby? Where is she at?
She's actually at Trinity. My signal may go in and out. I'm driving right now. Y'all know I'm always driving. But she was supposed to go to Temple, but she decided to stay local. She had like a mini meltdown a week or two before she was supposed to leave and decided to stay. But thankfully, due to the dual enrollment, she got a big scholarship from Trinity. They have like a leadership scholarship that they offer for people who did dual enrollment with them.
Yeah.
And they accepted her into their program, and she started yesterday.
That's good
That's
stuff.
amazing.
Nice.
Bacchus, we may have to pick that up again with our seniors to let them know like that type of opportunity exists. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I found out just by happenstance. Actually, I didn't even know till after they accepted her and they sent a letter in the mail. And it was like, due to your dual enrollment, here's your scholarship. We were like, wait, what? I didn't even know that was a thing. But thank you.
Count that joy.
It's good stuff.
Okay, well, in the interest of time, I am going to get us started. Is that okay with you, Tracy? Okay. And so I'd like to welcome everybody back to this new school year. It is really amazing to see the faces of both the staff and the board members who are able to join us today for this first meeting. As usual, we're going to start the meeting by reading the Paul student kind of mission. And so we will start there if everybody is able to open your board books. And I'm having, since I'm on my phone and Zoom is not cooperating my computer, I'm going to need people to like say, because I can't see everybody in one screen from the phone. If there's like, if there's a hand or something, I'm not able to see it. So I'm just letting people know. So I am going to start with the mission. The mission of Paul is to educate our students and to develop in them the capacity to be responsible citizens, independent thinkers, and leaders. I can see a couple of lips moving, so I thank you for joining me. This is our first meeting for the year, and I apologize, and I will do it after this meeting. At the end of the year, the minutes were sent around. Manya also shared in the board books the new minutes, or the agenda for today and the board book for this meeting. I want to make sure everybody got that, and we do have to vote on approval for the minutes for the end, and I'm actually gonna hold that until the end, because I'm gonna ask Manya. I know I didn't resend them for this meeting, from the June minutes. Manya, did you share those with everybody? Again?
I'm sorry, I wasn't doing a very good job multitasking. I was trying to get the board book thing set. Can you repeat your question, please, Kimber?
That's absolutely fine. That's part of why I said your name. I said I did not resend like I normally did the minutes for this meeting to everyone. So I'm asking, did you send with the board book a copy of the minutes from June? I can see Aaron's head nodding. So ignore. Okay, so I was going to pause on the voting on the minutes. So if everyone was able to review the minutes, or you were able to see them, and I seen Aaron nodding, I'm going to ask if there are any amendments, and I'm going to also ask for a motion for the floor to approve the minutes from our June meeting.
I'm happy to move to approve the minutes for the June meeting.
Thank you. And if there is a second, I'm going to ask you to unmute and second.
I second.
Thank you. That was?
Me, Brittany Wood.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wood. And so we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. I'm going to ask, I'm going to call names because we do have to make sure, just a reminder, this is the first meeting, I'm going to call names so people can vote. Aaron, since you're the first person I see.
Aye.
Thank you. Lorianne, you are the second person.
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Malachi.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Wood.
Aye.
Shamira.
Aye.
Okay, so for all of the people who are here, it is unanimous. And so we will now move on, and I'm going to actually ask, on the agenda, it says that we are going to give the enrollment updates, but I don't think that makes sense. I'm going to yield to Dr. White. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah, I'm going to do all of these things in here. Yeah. So actually, I'm going to jump right into the enrollment updates will be part of Ms. Yoakum's report out to the group, because her team oversees and project manages the enrollment process. And so, as you all know, in keeping with our board roadmap for the topics that we discuss with the board over the course of the year, we always kick the school year off with inviting the entire executive team in. And we call ourselves now the E-Cabinet because we have expanded as Ms. Span has transitioned out. And you'll learn more about that as Dr. Bacchus and Ms. Hayes provide the updates. It'll give you a better glimpse into the shifted organizational structure. Since again, as Span has transitioned out, we chose not to backfill that role. And instead, I'm working more closely with Dr. Bacchus and with Ms. Hayes. And so with that, I'm going to ask, actually, Bundy, would you can you screen share for us? Are you recording the meeting? Yeah, will that allow you to still screen share the slide deck? Awesome. So, beginning with just organizational updates, and want to say that we've had a really fast-paced summer. Like summer was crazy because why was it so short? I don't understand. It just felt like we literally closed, took one quick breath, and then we opened again. That's what it felt like. But I have to say that the work that took place over the course of the summer was it's always really good work. But I felt like it was exceptional this year because, we have some clear priorities around some changes, improvements, and shifts that we need to make in our organization. Pardon the gardener, because of course they would come like at 6 o'clock. When do they ever come at 6 o'clock? But they knew I was having a board meeting, so excuse the noise. At any rate, we had a really good, strong opening. The Professional Development Institute was phenomenal. We had a wonderful, and thanks again to Erin and to Kimba and Pam also came to the 25th year anniversary party. The energy and the spirits that you would have felt in that space were just kind of what it felt like for that entire week. So it was really, really good. We're going to dive right in and give you all a brief overview of our organizational priorities for this year. And I just want to, and I didn't put these slides in, but we shared these with our entire staff. And one of the things that I want you all to know is that, we do a pretty extensive review of the data, both our data connected to student outcomes and then our data also connected to adult outcomes. That includes attendance, that includes the anecdotal data that are collected when HR does their multiple check-ins and school teams do their check-ins. So there's a myriad of different data sources that we look at to include just the state of the world right now, which is a little bonkers, to make decisions about our priorities. And so I'm going to share our big 4 organizational priorities and then punt to department leads who will walk you through their department priorities, which as they are implemented, and they meet those objectives and milestones, will then lift our overall organizational priorities. And then the last source that I have to say, of course, that our priorities come from is our strategic plan. And we'll do more around the strategic plan in September, but Manya did include our updated snapshot of the strategic plan in the board folder for this meeting. All right, next slide. So 4 big priorities, all of them, first and foremost are in service of improving outcomes, but the path to improve outcomes, it looks a little different this year. In the past, it was like super focused just on the academic work of our students. But this year we are really focusing on the student experience at Paul, understanding that motivating our students, celebrating our students, making sure that the environment makes our students feel safe and comfortable, so that they can take in the amazing content of our staff is priority number 1. And so organizational culture and strengthening that culture is the first priority for our organization. And we think about that as it relates to our adults that we call our champs, and there's the acronym for champs, and our students that we call our merit scholars. Next slide. So the areas in particular for our adults, there are 3 that we're really focusing on improving over the course of this year. The first one is engaging our scholars through a trauma-informed lens. The reality of it is that, and we did some good work with our staff this summer to help them understand what that means. We don't have a single child in our school that has not experienced some form of trauma, whether that's acute trauma because of a certain situation, I don't know, like the National Guard taking over your city, federalization of the police, or some of the data from the crime stats over the course of the past 10 years, which we know that all out of 566 schools in DC, 564 of those schools have been within the proximity of some sort of gun violence. Or it's complex trauma or, long-term trauma. We understand that our kids come to us having experienced trauma. Trauma impacts the brain and its ability to really connect and focus on the work that we're providing for our students. And so we have to figure out how to engage our students and create an environment where they can learn and thrive. Exemplifying champs in all we say and do, that's being courageous, humane, achievement-focused modeling and planning, and then showing up and showing out for our scholars. We've made some adjustments to our performance evaluation process to specifically include, programming such as office hours for our kids throughout the years, which is a mandate for all of our teachers. And then also it's a mandate for everyone in the organization to support at least 2 extracurricular activities that our kids are engaged in over the course of the year, whether it's a play or a sporting event. We want our kids to see our faces because that also connects them to us more closely. And if there are any questions at any point in time, please stop me. Next slide. For our student culture, there are 4 big areas. Kicking off the year strong with social emotional learning. This year, we've contracted with an organization called the Found Collective to do monthly gender specific in terms of how our kids identify sessions with our students. We call it Real Talk. That really focuses on providing a safe space for them to open up and to also, kind of affirm and stamp the social emotional learning and lessons that are happening over the course of the year. Ms. Reagan will talk more about that in her presentation because that's the shop that some of these lessons are that they're coming out of. We're also focusing on cultivating merit scholars by explicitly teaching what it means to be a merit scholar, and then creating an environment of celebration and ritual. Celebration so our kids feel like they are seen and heard, and rituals so that our kids have things to look for on a consistent basis. Okay, next slide. Priority area 2, of course, and we don't need to go deep into this. It's attendance. It is attendance because we can't do any of this work if our kids are not in school. So it's all facets of attendance. Priority 3, of course, is academics. And you might be saying, well, how come priority 3 is not, you can switch the slide, Manya. How come priority 3 is not the first priority, academics? Well, the reality of it is we have a really strong academic program. It's very strong. It is well developed. It is very defined. It is very strategic. It is well communicated, well conveyed, well documented. And so as we examine our outcomes, we have to examine what is it that is standing in the way of this really well-developed, well-defined programming, getting our kids to where we want them to be academically. And as we really explored that, the 2 first priorities that you all saw are those 2 things that we believe are roadblocks for our students getting to where we need them to be academically. Having a strong organizational culture for them. And then the second thing is they got to come to school every day. They have to, because our children don't know how to catch up when they miss a day or 2 or 50. So it's really important that, they're there and that they enjoy and feel comfortable in the school that they're in. And we understand that we still have to focus on academics. And if you will, Bundy, go to the next slide. We're still focused on it, but it's not our top priority, although it is one of our major priorities. And so specifically, we're making sure that we have strong Tier 1 instructional practices across all of the classrooms. We have done a lot of amazing work, and Ms. Hayes in SPAN and Reagan have collaborated over the last couple of years around, our RTI pyramid in particular. But what we've learned, because we are data minded people, and from examining the data from our RTI programming, is we have a backlog. Response to intervention programming says basically no more than 3 to 5% of your students should need Tier 3 level interventions. Well, we were backlogging and bottlenecking our system, and we had tons of kids, way too many. We were at like 20-30% who was at the top tier, and then another, 20-30 or more percent at Tier 2, which led us to understanding that things were not happening the way they needed to in Tier 1. And just for you all's understanding, Tier 1 is what all of our children get. Tier 2 is what some of our students get in terms of instructional support, and Tier 3 is the most intensive level of support that students receive. So we're doing a lot of work to make sure that Tier 1 is as strong as it can be, so that if there are children who need additional support, we feel confident that that support is support that could not be handled in the first tier. Implementing our intervention and recovery, you all have seen this multiple times. We're not going to let up on this. And then continuing to use data to drive our instructional improvements. Next slide. And our fourth priority for this year is family engagement. We can't do anything without our families. And so we're going to focus on streamlining communications, increasing participation at events, and then making sure that we have really strong partners with our families, because we understand that this kind of undergirds all of the other priority areas, and that we can't be successful if we're not successful here. So that's the big picture of where we're focusing for the year. I want to punt to department heads to then talk about how they are taking these focus areas and operationalizing it into work for their respective departments. And because we have new members, I've asked everyone to reintroduce themselves. But before we do that, are there any questions about the 4 big priorities? Okay. With that, I believe that we are, okay, starting with Miss Yoakum.
Great. Thanks, Dr. White. This introduction slide reminds me to share my nail art. Oh, I don't know if you'll be able to see it with my background, but I've got the cupola on my Paul back to school nails this week. So that's just a little, that's a fun fact about me, that I do all my own nail art. I am Kristen Yoakum. I am the Executive Director of Operations, and this is my 3rd school year with Paul. So the operations priorities for 25-26, we, I pick a goal or a theme that I centralize our work around for the year. And this year it's One Paul, One Purpose, strengthening systems and culture to better serve every student. So we're doing that in 3 main buckets this year. The first is strengthening our operational systems. These are our internal operating systems. So we want to make sure that we have a safe and organized, supportive operations team that enhances student experiences. We're doing that through, in this first quarter, we're really heavily going in on new event management procedures, which might sound like kind of a small thing, but everything that we do is an event in some aspects. And so unifying the procedures and the process for that to make it easier for staff and more enjoyable for students so that they can feel celebrated for the things that we're trying to celebrate them for is really important. We're really trying to reinforce consistency and equity by rooting all of those, operational internal systems in the CHAMPS qualities. So CHAMPS is not just a poster that we make and put up on the wall. It is something that we make sure we see in all of our work every day. We're also focusing on delivering high quality resources. So this is, we're trying to provide safe, welcoming facilities. We want to make sure that our technology is reliable and the right technology for the programming that we do so that our students can succeed. We want to build student ownership in maintaining those shared resources. It's not my school building, it's our school building, it's their school building. And when it gets damaged, it is something that belongs to all of us getting damaged. This is in years past, this would have been a really big concern for facilities. And today it is super important when it comes to student technology. So the first thing we did this year was we gave students all clear book bags to make sure that their Chromebooks make it with them to school every day safely. They're not, dropped in the street on the way in, but they make it, they come with their charger, they have something now to carry them around throughout the building all day. So we're really focusing on finding those solutions to help students have what they need, and then also high quality resources for our staff. So, you probably recall we spent last year building out PowerSchool to be the end all be all tool for everyone. And this year we're focusing on the training in those systems so that people have, at their fingertips, the data that they need. And finally, as Dr. White just talked about, we are focused on deepening family engagement through partnership with families. So the work that we have already started doing here is really around that unifying communication, really close partnerships with our families, with our family engagement teams within the school, so that we are all sending the same message and using the same format to send those messages. If you're parents, you might have already seen our family newsletters that went out that are scrollable and clickable and not 14 pages, but still able to express the information that families need in a way that they can internalize, and helps us to reduce the number of times a day or a week that we need to reach out to families. One of the things that we are still reaching out to families about is enrollment. And so as promised, here's our enrollment update. We have hit our enrollment target, which is something that I will be honest, did not think would happen this year. Citywide, schools, LEAs have noticed a decrease in charter school enrollment. We're still waiting on some better data across the city to really understand what's gone on here. But this is something that everyone we know has struggled with. As I said, we didn't think we would get here. One of the things that did happen in these first few weeks of school, first week and a half of school, is that students who ignored all our requests to re-enroll at the end of the year showed up and finally did process the re-enrollment. So we have some returners that we weren't counting in our numbers, which helped a lot. And then we're still enrolling. We've just incredible numbers in the middle school in 6, 7, and 8. We're still recruiting, and we have great incentives for families who know 5th graders. And we're trying to make up for some retention losses in the high school. So we didn't retain quite as many students in rising 9th and 10th graders as we historically do. And so we've made up for that by bringing in new 10th graders and bringing in a good sized 9th grade class. We are still enrolling in 9th and 5th and waiting to see the final shakeout of what we call our no-shows. So every year students enroll and then choose, at the last minute to go to a different school. And we have to make phone calls. We have lots of people making those phone calls to find out who they are. Right now it's under 20 students, which for a week and a half in is excellent. A week from now, so the Tuesday after Labor Day, that's when we'll really have a good idea of what our no-show list looks like. I expect by next Tuesday for that list to be down to 10. And that way, that'll help us make some decisions on if we want to, make a few more offers to bump our numbers up. But we have well surpassed our budget goal, and we have met our big number goal, which gives us that cushioning we need. So we are in a good place on enrollment, and look forward to having everyone in the building.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ms. Yoakum, and the heavy emphasis on what we budget for and what we target for enrollment are two different things. Our target is always significantly higher than our budgeted number. Budget number is always conservative. We got to our budgeted number or close to it really fast. And then it was like the faucet turned all the way off and was like a single drip, every 6 days, right? But luckily, we did exceed that budget number. And as Ms. Yoakum said, we have now hit the target number beyond that. So that is really, really good news. I mean, I also want to second, what she shared about the number of students who have already shown up to school. That has been a historical pain point. We are really trying to shake that whole notion of school doesn't start until after Labor Day, because literally school has started before Labor Day for probably almost 20 years now. It's been a really long time. But we do know from, talking to other LEAs and LEA leaders that across the city, and some of it probably has to do with what's going on, just in the world of Washington, D.C. Schools are seeing record low numbers of students who have reported in these orientation days. So we feel very blessed and fortunate that we're literally like looking for 20 kids, 25 kids, as opposed to other schools that are looking for hundreds of missing children, not actually missing, but missing from their buildings. Yeah. Any questions for Ms. Yoakum? Awesome. All right.
You don't want to talk about the nail art? We can.
All right. Next one is Ms. Murkison.
Good morning, excuse me, good evening, everyone. I think I've met everyone on this call. My name is Pamela Merkerson. I lead the talent department for Paul and going into my 9th school year doing so. I do not do my own nails. I don't think I've had my nails done since I had children, so I'm not really fancy like Miss Yoakum. Um, I actually, when we were putting together these slides, we kind of thought about, it feels um, very familiar to when we had just met in June. And my team and I were collaborating and thinking about priorities for this particular school year. And we've put it into 6 buckets, and we're like going over the list, and it looks so easy on paper, like, oh, it's just 6 buckets. And we know what it will actually take to make this occur. So priorities for the upcoming school year, of course, include retention and recruitment. And so making sure that we have a full staff. We're strengthening the retention of the staff by investing in recognition techniques, professional growth opportunities, improved feedback loops, which I think is really, really important. I had the pleasure of going to a fantastic conference in San Diego this summer that really was able to connect us to a lot of vendors that kind of streamline a lot our processes, bringing extra things to the table that aren't difficult, but have rewards, right? We had small things we've had a lot of requests for pet insurance, and we were able to link up with a vendor that allows us to do that for our staff, but not in a way that's troublesome. And so next on that list is kind of like looking at what options we could have in terms of helping our staff with student loans as well. Next bucket, excuse me, sorry, I'm outside, so I have some bugs flying around me. Under that first bucket, though, definitely expanding our candidate pipelines to increase diversity. I know you're not allowed to use that word, but most importantly, to ensure alignment with our mission. And I think that we have, as a leadership team, been intentional about adding in our mission and our motto of champs into our everyday work. And so making sure that that's also something that's highlighted during the interview process, because those are the types of folks that we need to bring into the organization that are aligned with champs. Secondly, talent development. So what that looks like is implementing consistent and high quality onboarding. We want to make sure that we have an onboarding system all the way through 90 days, giving teachers a strong start. We know it's very overwhelming for them in the beginning of the school year. And so we want to make sure that they know that we're here to support them in all of that. And we haven't just like, oh, you went through orientation and good luck to you. Excuse me. Also have had the opportunity to establish some leadership development pathways for internal staff for future vacancies. And I think that that's been exciting because we get a lot of inquiries about that from our team. Third on our list was staff engagement. So obviously focusing on fostering a culture of trust, collaboration, and recognition of both each campus. We have some wellness and work-life balance supports that we're really excited to bring out this year. We'll have a new initiative for each month to help the staff in that way. Dr. White had mentioned that we are also doing some tweaking of our performance management, performance and accountability as a whole. We think that we've strengthened greatly in the past few years, but always having a space for refinement. And so we're going to make sure that our evaluation systems are transparent, they're equitable, they're aligned with our goals. Definitely have been providing managers with feedback and tools for training for their effective coaching. Using our data from the performance reviews to really inform professional development is a huge priority for this year. I mean, it is obviously something that the data-driven world is into all the time, but I think that we will have the data, and sometimes it's difficult to make the decision because you also have human feelings. And so we really want to make sure that a lot of our decisions are being based on the data this year. And so being very specific and intentional about that. Literally getting lost. Fifth, compliance, least fun of all. It has been an incredible year in recognizing that there was no Department of Labor, no National Labor Bureau statistics, or OSHA. So a lot of the compliance pieces that we have been held with for a while are a little in flux. I think that our thought process was best to just keep it as status quo. So no, there's not an OSHA, but that doesn't mean we're not going to make our work environment safe, right? So we're using all the same standards, even though currently that baseline of what is needed is definitely gray. But in that really helps to work in cohesion with our labor attorneys. They really help us with adhering to labor laws and organizational policies being maintained. So that's a whole thing this year, of course. We definitely want to be leading with confidentiality and legal compliance in all of our HR practices. And so we've all gone through some additional training for that, just to remind folks in this season what is needed to make sure that we're always in compliance and on the right side of the law. Lastly would be our human operations. So we've streamlined our HR processes to improve efficiency and reduce administrative burden. This, of course, been the development of allowing a lot of HR requests to be gone through our platform of FMX. So we're moving those requests along more safely, as we've had some concerns with internet phishing, and more accurately. Yeah, those are the strategic levers that directly support student outcomes, we think, and what we're really working on. Ultimately, our goal is to enable the staff to thrive so that our students can thrive.
Thank you, Ms. Murkison. And I just want to say really quickly, like, that's a really important part of our strategic plan. It's our fifth priority. We have five strategic plan buckets, the fifth one being operations. And so, really making sure that our operational priorities for the year and our human resource policies for the year align in a way that supports the development of the organizational culture and, of course, the academic programming and outcomes for kids. And so with that, I'm going to now, any questions for Ms. Murkison?
I have one question. Are we fully staffed, or do we still have any vacancies as we start?
We've just added, we are fully staffed for all of our campus roles, middle school and high school. We are fully staffed. We are at a space where we're recognizing that our needs may require an additional teacher, but for all plan teachers, those roles are done, and we're really excited. But right now we're interviewing for some supplemental, and we also take this time to interview just in case there's any transitions early in the school year.
We've been in a good place with staffing for a good amount of time now. Erin and board members, I would say though that there were some really good learnings that we had this year because we were able to offer retention bonuses at the close of the year. So we are actively, budgeting to hope to be able to do that. It may not be to the same extent, but definitely it pushed some decisions sooner rather than later, which put us in, a really good position to not have any, Sunday night resignations when it came time to come back, for the year. And, we did have one or two, but luckily, the HR team had already staffed those roles, because if you pass up on a retention bonus, especially given the size of the bonuses that we were able to give this past school year, and you tell us you're going to pass on the bonus, but you're still coming back, yeah, we're going to go ahead on staff for that.
So much. Sorry, could we move on to the next slide? I don't have anything else to say, but I thought that might help Ms. Albright and just kind of looking at what recruitment looked like for us this year. Bye-bye. So if you have any other questions, otherwise I'm gonna zip it.
Thank you. All right. Next slide, if you would. And I'm going to punt to Dr. Bacchus. And Dr. Bacchus, if you'll just just sharing a little bit about yourself and your expanded role and work here at Paul, and how long you've been here with us as well.
Yes, good evening. I'm Lynette Bacchus. I'm the Director of Leadership Development. I've been at Paul collectively 6 years. I've been in multiple roles and have been here a couple of times, but I'm so happy to be here and find some longevity here in the organization. My work is broken out in 4 areas. primarily the supervision of the head of schools, and specifically looking at people management and accountability, and also leadership development. And so this is about deepening the understanding execution of core leadership competencies, and specifically thinking about how do we get leaders to strategically think, how do they also execute an emotional or maintain emotional intelligence, and ensuring that their communications is aligned to the organizational outcomes, and how can they have influence so that they can move the needle in terms of the people that they manage and meet the strategic priorities. The other two areas are around college and career readiness and our career and technical education program. So if I move to the next slide, three priority areas for leadership and school management priorities are around these three, planning to execution. So specifically, these are focused on building strong data-driven leaders. And so thinking about what do they do at every level by developing them around their core leadership competencies. Specifically, I think about these competencies through three areas: managing the work, collaborating within their teams or cross teams, and then also driving accountability. And so I see this through leaders and teachers are also developed. I know very often Dr. White talks about us building a leadership within, and so ensuring that we have a clear pipeline to do that. And so that work does happen at the leadership development level, and ensuring that we're advancing these pathways and deepening our teacher leadership reinforcements as well. Right now, we do have one of our leaders or principals who is now in a principal PLC through our School Leader Lab. This is also our partnership with Teach for America, which we've done a lot of onboarding of our TFA teachers within our school. And so this is just making sure that we keep strong pathways and partnerships with some of the organizations that provide specific pipelines to us. Next up is, next slide. Thank you. Is the organizational data review. And this is mostly specifically focused on reviewing and action and monitoring of our data. And when I think about this specifically, the overall goal for our organizational data approach is to ensure that our data drives our strategic decision-making, accountability, and a continuous improvement across our organization. And so we do this through making sure that our leaders are aligned to results. And so how do they align to the outcome of our metrics? And that's being really clear. And so making sure that they're executing on their project plans to ensure that they are meeting these metrics, and how do they then make course correction in the event that they're not, making sure that we provide support consistently in their decision making. So making sure that there is a creation of very structured process, review, analyze, and act upon some of the data that we have within our organization. The last two is around data organization impact. And so making sure that what we do look at and how we are engaging in it, that is accurate, that we're making some movement on this in a very timely manner, and that we are also identifying gaps really early so that we are seeing a cycle of this through various organizational structures, and that we are now, as a result of that, we're able to improve the outcomes that we're seeing for our scholars with our organization. One area that's very, very specific and very important is around the separation between tactile and strategic focus. And so making sure that operationally, we are looking at how do we engage in some of these more routine issues that we see within our organization, but we avoid diluting some of our focus on very small things when we need to be very high, focus on our high priority metrics. And so how do we stay high enough to engage across our organization and then go deeper in some of the other structures? And so when do we need to be tactile, and when do we need to be really, really strategic in our lens and our data? Next slide is college readiness and career and technical education. And so for our early college and dual enrollment program. We're really looking at thinking about expanding, and this is actually for all of our programs, specifically our CTE and our early college and dual enrollment, is making sure that we're now focusing on the equity of access. And so making sure that we're meeting all of our micro groups across a variety of our micro groups, not just our L and our scholars with IEPs, but thinking about like ours being really strategic about our economic disadvantaged scholars, MKV scholars, scholars who are migrant scholars, et cetera. And we want to make sure that they're the equity and access to our dual enrollment program and our CTE programming through our Advanced Technical Education Center, which is also a dual enrollment program, that they have equitable access to ensuring that they have a pathway post-secondary. Also making sure that we're keeping high rates, pass rates, which we have been able to maintain that within our organization. We want to continue to do that. And so making sure that we're maximizing transferable credits so that scholars can get, as someone mentioned earlier, scholarships to have access to school, and in making sure that we're strengthening our partnerships. And so year over year, we do build our institution of higher education partnerships. And so that pipeline is growing, and we're really excited about that. That gives students more choice in how in organizations or schools that they want to engage with. In terms of our CTE pathways, one big priority is to continue to build out our internal career and technical education program in information technology, specifically computer science. And so this year we're in our second year, and after this year, we will then become a concentrator. And what that means is that our students will be able to take certification exams to get certifications to garner access or get access to career, scholarship, and college access. And so we want to make sure that we are building that pipeline internally while also maintaining our partnership with the Advanced Technical Center. Now, because the Advanced Technical Center is engaging more with other LEAs, that does reduce our in-seat access at ATC. And so we want to make sure that we are expanding our internal programs so that we are giving more of our students opportunity for our organization. This is also critical in terms of making connectivity to industry. Several of our students have been a part of our CTE program and have gotten into programs where they have early access. And one of our students is actually entering her first year of college as a sophomore because she was able to earn her credits through the CTE program and our partnership with ATC. And lastly, I want to highlight our alumni engagement, specifically making sure we're closely tracking the outcomes of our scholars. And so making sure that they are persisting. And so this is really critical in connecting them back to three areas, I think, pillars that are really important. Family, making sure we're continue to connect with their families, making sure that we're continuing to connect students to what's happening in terms of what they've learned in their secondary education programming. And then thirdly, how do we continue to connect them to their experiences in terms of their external experiences. So specifically looking at partnerships that we've had at other institutions, making sure that we are making connections to some apprenticeship programs that we have built out for our students. And so they're able to work and then also go to school. We're also formalizing this alumni network where students are coming back to do TED Talks with our scholars. So we are building that in for our 11th and 12th grade students to be able to engage with our alum who will lead some TED Talks to support our students in giving back to the students at Paul and making sure that we're providing this more advisement system for our students. So they do return back to us 3 times a year. That's what we plan for this year, to come back, do 3 advisement sessions for them to continue to persist or to launch. In the case they did not launch in the fall, we have 2 other opportunities, and that's the spring and summer. And so that's the work that we're doing currently for career readiness, college readiness priorities. Any questions about those 4?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dr. Bacchus. All righty, Bundy. Next slide. And now I'm going to punt to Ms. Hayes. If you'll introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your role and how long you've been here at Paul. She's our Director of Academics and Accountability.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening to you all. I'm happy to be here. I am over the academics team, which includes our instructional specialists, our new teacher mentor, as well as our L instructional support manager. So I've been with Paul for 5 years. I came over 2020, and I'm really excited to be here today. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So there's 4 real priorities that I wanted to highlight to you all that we're really focusing in on. I'm going to start with, I'm actually going to go clockwise and start with SL and IS partnership, because that is at the root of a lot of the work that we are doing. My partnership with Dr. Bacchus and the school leaders is critical to make all of the other aspects of our work really stand out and really have an impact for our scholars. We've always had a fairly strong process or partnership between our instructional specialists team and our school leaders, but we have recognized that we really do need to strengthen that partnership in being more intentional with how they are working together and paying attention to what Dr. Bacchus referred to about the critical data and really following the data that is telling a true story about where our scholars are, where our teachers are. And so we really are kicking off this year in the summer, reestablishing what it means to have a strong partnership across our teams and why it matters. Our school leaders and our instructional specialists will continue to meet regularly as a full team in our cross-campus instructional leadership teams. But it's really critical that that meeting is just a baseline. They have to meet regularly, both formally and have some collective partnership, whether they're meeting to go see teachers, to look at data together so that they can collectively and in alignment guide teacher development and monitoring scholar growth and achievement. So that's really at the crux of making the rest of these boxes really work. So I'm going to go down to teacher development, and 2 areas that I really wanted to highlight within our teacher development is our course collaborative team meetings. They are not new, but we have found those to be one of the most important aspects of our work, particularly because our Friday PDs are just one space. Our course collaborative team meetings meet on a weekly basis with our instructional specialists. And that's where we really expect our teachers and our instructional specialists to really be diving into the scholar data, not waiting until the end of the week or not waiting until the end of the advisory to look at massive data. And we found that over the course of really overseeing and managing and facilitating those course collaborative meetings in a more structured way, we're paying attention to the data more consistently and being able to respond. One thing that we're really pushing this year is to make sure that in the course collaborative team meetings that we are underscoring the importance of maximizing instructional minutes with our scholars by looking at the data and deciding on where our small group instruction needs to happen on a regular basis. We started a lot of this work last year, really starting to track our student data from week to week, shuffling students, paying attention to who's in what block and where are those students performing. We're continuing that this year. And we really have a good baseline to continue that work. We also are excited that we're moving all the way to pair assessment, which is our data platform for assessment. So We used to use Illuminate, but we've fully moved over to pair assessment this year across our entire all of our content teams. Last year, our math team adopted it, and we're kind of the guinea pigs to try it out. And then they talked so highly of it that other teachers started to use it. We were able to use it fully for summer school. It's a very intuitive platform. The reports that it gives, not only us as leaders, but more so our teachers, really will help them better understand and cut the data in a way that helps them not feel overwhelmed by the data, but they can use it to their advantage to make instructional decisions. So we're really excited about that. And then the other thing under the teacher development is our new teacher mentor. This is our second year having our new teacher mentor. We're really excited to continue to expand the impact of our new teacher mentor working across both schools this year. We have a large number of new, very new, first year teacher new teachers in both the high school and the middle school. And last year, our new teacher mentor was really squarely working with our middle school teachers, but we have a large number of teachers in the high school that need that support. And so we're really grateful to have the new teacher mentor coming back for a second year across both schools, really focusing on setting that foundation for a strong and safe classroom environment that opens itself up for strong instruction. On the left-hand side, learning recovery. I know it's all of your favorite topics. It is mine as well. So much so that we've been talking about it for 4 months. Literally in May, we started having learning recovery planning meetings. And so it was a delight to be able to finally launch it this week with our scholars and last week with our teachers. We did a lot of intentionality with our IXL and Reflex learning recovery plans, have learned a lot from what has worked specifically in the middle school and bringing that over into the high school. We are starting strong day one. We've already been in classrooms today, making sure that students weren't having those hiccups in their launch of their learning recovery plans. We're also aligned to what many of my colleagues have talked about, the intentionality and the accountability structures for being clear about what we expect from the gate so that we're not spinning our wheels around what is the target. Everyone knows what the target is. Our scholars do and our teachers do, and we want to be able to celebrate that and course correct when we know we're off track. So that is a big part of our work this year, and excited to share some of that positive data in a few weeks when it comes out. Additionally, during the learning recovery, our academic deans have really built out a plan for celebrations and incentives for our scholar engagement. So we're excited to continue to lift that up. Additionally, our HMH interventions courses, Read 180 and Math 180, is coming back again. We do have 3 out of the 4 teachers are brand new to the organization, to the program. So we have spent a lot of time over the summer to not only develop our teachers, but also our leaders. So our leaders, our school leaders, myself, a few other folks at the network level have spent a total of 4 hours with HMH getting shored up on the HMH platform, on the program, so that we are super clear on how to lead our teachers this year. In addition, we are excited to have 2 intervention lead teachers who are experienced teachers in their content area, and they are excited to serve as mentors to our intervention teachers. And then we've also invested in HMH facilitated coaching. So they are kind of at our beck and call. We've invested in Coachly, where they can set up weekly coaching meetings with HMH experts to help us look at our data, see where we can continue to improve, help us troubleshoot some of those tricky scholars that we're trying to figure out how do we get them to move? How do we get them to understand the foundations of phonemic awareness? So we are really leaning into that heavily in the professional development realm of intervention. And then coupled with that, we want to see if it works. So we're paying attention to monitoring the data and bringing back those biweekly organizational reports. So we're staying close to it across the year and not waiting until midway and end of year to see our growth. And then lastly, assessments, all of our favorite topics as well. We are bringing that back with a few things. We feel good about our assessment programming. We've come a long way with making sure that we have strong plans, that it's strongly communicated. But we do recognize that we have room to grow in terms of making sure that all of our scholars across any of our testing windows have a common experience. So we have leaned back into the fidelity of oversight of our programming, talking about having that common script so that our students and our proctors get used to reading a testing script for even NWEA as well as interims. We're also making sure that as school leaders and network leaders that we're monitoring the fidelity of the testing windows so that we can give that feedback early and we're not giving folks feedback during high stakes tests so that it becomes the norm of what we expect. And then lastly, we are continuing to build upon some really great work last year where we were establishing strong routines and systems to build scholar investment and build their motivation. So we're continuing with goal setting with our scholars, and then we're also doing a lot more to increase the celebration of scholar performance after each assessment. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
And you all have this slide deck, so if you want to go back and revisit and have any questions, by all means you can. And closing us out this evening, Miss Reagan.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Rose Reagan. I'm the Executive Director of Student Support Services, and I am starting my 14th year at Paul. Next slide. And so we have three major priorities connected to just our strategic plan for this school year. The first is culture and scholar support. Dr. White did a little bit of forecasting at the beginning about some of the work that we've been doing. For many years, we have been talking about the Paul Way, the Paul Way, the Paul Way. And this past summer, we spent some really good and extensive time codifying the Paul Way in a 70-page manual that really speaks to our scholars' experience, our expectations for them, and then the staff's role in supporting the scholars with those expectations. In addition to that, we did some really great training with our staff this summer so that they really internalized the Paul Way and 10 culture systems that are connected to our Merit Paul Way. We also focused on our social emotional learning. That's a big focus for us this year. As Dr. White stated, we have partnered with an organization called FAM Collective, and they are out of California and have done some really great work with scholars who identify as male, and just focused on life skills and who am I and my responsibilities as a scholar. And so we had them here actually yesterday and today. They did their kickoff meeting in our high school where they met with all of our scholars who identify as male across the high school throughout the 2 days, and just really started some of that critical work to really just promote a sense of self as a scholar at Paul. So you probably wonder what happens to our young ladies. And so our social work, our mental health team, which consists of about 10 clinicians, have been working with our girls over the last 2 days in the high school and doing the same work that FAM Collective is doing, just to really focus on who am I and what does that mean for me and how I show up in life and how I show up as a merit scholar at Paul. And so that's something that's going to be happening every month. There's some sessions that are virtual and some sessions that are in person, but our scholars are really going to have this real close connectivity with these content experts in helping to just enhance their own identity and what that means as to be a scholar. Really, really, really excited about that. In addition to that, we have really expanded our SEL just a structure or programming within our school. And so our school counselors this year are owning social emotional learning for our scholars. And we have a thematic calendar that we're working from, and literally every single week, through various ways, they're teaching lessons connected to the thematic calendar. In addition to that, our families will be getting weekly updates on what our scholars are learning so that, they can ask questions and reinforce and at home as well, because can't all be done at school, right? We have our families who are our Scholars First teachers that really are in this with us. And so that is some really exciting work that we're doing with our scholars. And really that SEL work is happening in so many aspects of their day, from morning announcements to messages that they'll see on the e-board throughout the boards throughout the school, at lunch with the deans of culture who leads lunch, and then again at the end of the day. So really, really exciting work. In addition to that, we have just really been focused on intentionally developing our adults, our teachers and staff, so that they feel equipped to support our scholars as much as they can. As Dr. White stated that at the start of the school year, we did an intense, very comprehensive dive into trauma-informed support and looking at how we educate and support our scholars through a trauma-informed lens. And, we started the conversation with them around, it's not like it's just our scholars who've experienced trauma. We all have. However, due to our own brain development, we have the necessary life skills and coping skills to deal with what we're dealing with every day. Our scholars do not. And so when they show up, we have to be able to support them based on and meet them where they are and what their needs are. So really excited about that work that is happening with our scholars, because we know that it's going to be a slam dunk to the work that's happening with them academically. In addition, this year we're going to begin codifying the programming connected to developing the development of global mindsets in our scholars, and what that means. I apologize for the typo, but that is some work that we're going to be diving in starting in October, and really excited to share out more with y'all throughout the year. Our special populations is another area of focus. As you know, we have a robust special populations at Paul, and it is continuing to grow. Our Ls and our students with IEP, that population is continuing to grow, and we have to make sure that we are equipped with all of the necessary tools that we need to support them in their academic growth. And so that is a continued focus for us. We've been focused on that, but that is a continued focus, as well as intensifying support for our high need scholars. This year alone, already, we have gotten some a few scholars that have enrolled with us are extremely high need, and scholars that we typically would not be able to service, that we would immediately be advocating with DCPS for private placements. However, we are developing a plan to really try to do our best to support these scholars, and we're already seeing some wins with some of the scholars that we're working with. And so that is an area for us as well, is to continue to intensify our support so that we can support scholars at all ends of the continuum. Scholar-led IEPs, we started this work last year with our juniors and seniors that they were able to really lead their IEP meetings and advocate for themselves and share their goals and their strengths and areas that they want to focus on. And our goal is to have that process for all scholars at every grade level, including our middle school. And so that is some work that we are continuing to focus on this year, with our case managers working very closely with our scholars to first understand their data. We have a saying in our department that it's all about the data, baby. And so they have to understand their data so that then they can internalize it help us internalize their needs in ways that we may not be able to understand. And then just continuing to really be intentional about professional development for our staff, just so that we're doing all that we can to support our scholars. As you know, we have several scholars with dedicated aides, as we call them, student support technicians. We have about 14 scholars right now, and I think we're getting ready to add a 15th. And so, these are scholars with high need, and to be honest, the support that our scholars need, their dedicated aides they don't go to school for this, they are, folks that are passionate and wanting to help scholars with, with needs, but they need to be trained. And so we have a whole training institute that we started a few years ago, and we've continued to intensify it so that we are providing our dedicated aides with as much support as possible so that they can support their scholars. And then last but not least, for special populations, is just continuing to have strong oversight of our non-public placement scholars. They are our students. They are our students. They are our students. And so we are monitoring them very closely. We're meeting with the non-public placements on a monthly basis, and definitely leading, guiding, and supporting the work that needs to happen with them in those placements so that they are able to graduate and go to college and pursue the necessary goals that they have for themselves. And so that is some very important work that we're continuing to do. Next slide. Last but not least, attendance, as Dr. White said. Last spring, we started, really revamping how we supported scholars that had some attendance concerns. And we started a attendance campaign, which was called Power Up. And it was really an action plan to that all adults that touch scholars were a part of this action plan in really, analyzing data on a weekly basis, developing strong action steps to address whatever discrepancy of whatever concerns were in the data, celebrating the heck out of scholars that were coming to school daily and on time. And then even identifying case managers, which could be anyone, right, that could closely work with scholars where there were concerns about their attendance. And that process was very successful. It was a lot of work. It was hard work. But we finished the year off with very favorable attendance percentages in both schools, and we have continued that action plan this year. Our campaign is called Show Up and Show Out. And we started that work this summer with just positive messages to families about the importance of attendance. And little did you know about scholars that miss days of school versus come to school each day. And so we really are focused first on Tier 1, just in terms of making sure that all our families are getting all of the important information that's necessary about attendance, and making sure that our scholars as well, and putting some incentives and things in place to really celebrate those that are, meeting the goals right away, and hopefully that will then ensure that our attendance, the scholars that need more, are not that many. And so that's what our goal is. So we have some really good work to do, looking forward to doing with regarding our attendance priority.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Reagan? Okay. All right. Thanks, team. And I'm going to ask you all to stay on. So you all have your cup is full board. You all have very clear understanding of the work that we have to do this year. And once we share our data, it will make some of that a bit more real during closed session. So I'm going to move on to our financial report. And if you all will go to your board book, and I've asked the cabinet to stay on. Usually I release them after they, provide their reports, but I ask them to stay on so that they can be part of the conversation about our data that we'll have during closed session. So if you can just open up your personal board book, and then cabinet, Manya emailed you all so you can follow along. We're going to take a look at the finance slides very briefly, because there's not a ton of new information, but there is really good information here. So you all will remember that last year we received the ERC credit, the employee retention credit that we actually applied for probably about 2 to 3 years prior. That, along with really strong financial management from our internal team, supported by EdOps and guided by our finance committee, put us in a position where we were able to offer retention bonuses to staff, which was great. In addition to that, we did what we call kind of the great spend down, which was, did a lot of pre-purchasing of things that we were going to need for the year, because we had that additional room in our budget. We did a great job of spending, but still landed in a very incredibly healthy financial position. As you can see, where our cash balance is at the end of the year, you see our days of cash, our gross margin, and our debt service coverage ratio, which is pretty significant. If you move on to the next slide, you'll see the key changes in revenue. You'll see that our earnings from our investments in the common fund and also our ICS account paid off big this year. We have had a really good conversation in the finance committee. I promise you, Sterling is on a mission to make me the smartest finance girly on the face of the earth, because in thinking about what we have amassed in terms of our revenue and our reserves, I'm just trying to think of a way that we can leverage, in particular, our reserves. And so I met with the bank, just to have conversations with them about our debt service coverage ratio, which is not necessarily an end for us to be able to, better leverage our reserves. But we are thinking about doing some things differently with our investments potentially. I'm in the process of researching some of those things so that we can better leverage, our investments. And you'll see like our common fund investments are doing really well, as are our ICS accounts. We have a higher Medicaid revenue this year that's higher than what we originally projected. And then we applied for and won a summer boost grant. We had an additional ARMA summer programming this year that we got about $38K for, but we're not doing that anymore. Sometimes the funding is not worth the everything. You'll see people shaking their head. Dr. B is shaking her head. Yoakum is shaking her head like, we're not doing that anymore. It was nice. We tried it. We're okay. In terms of changes, you will see some of that great spend down, which, hits our cash balance. So we did a lot of leasehold improvements. You're going to see a lot about that over the course of the next couple of years. One of the things on Ms. Yoakum's things to do list is to commission a pretty extensive facilities evaluation so that we can do some physical plant planning and thinking about, given the level of reserves that we have, like what would it take to truly modernize our space and expand. Ms. Reagan talked about, we have these, 3 to 5 students who have some pretty extensive special needs. And part of that includes them having their own classroom space. We don't have any classroom space. I mean, zero. zilch, nada. And Sterling, I have to tell you about what I learned in researching whether or not we could buy the land. Again, I'm going to be the smartest finance girly and a real estate agent. We can't buy the land, but we do need to figure out how to work within what we have. And then computers, we spent less than what we budgeted, although we did purchase MacBooks for everyone. And then there were some higher ending accounts receivable. So those were some of the key changes to cash. Looking at our KPIs, you can see all of them are in very much in the green, which feels really good, given the state of the world, particularly the federal world, and particularly as it relates to federal funding. We, of course, were part of the scare when we thought that we weren't going to get any of the Title II through, I think it was like 5 or 6, I can't remember. But the good news is that because of how we budgeted, even if we did not get that revenue, we budgeted enough cushion to be able to make it through that difficult moment. So we didn't have to go through that moment, which was great, but yeah, so we were good. If you go to the financial revenue overview, you'll see the variance in terms of revenue, the variance in terms of expenses. In the change in cash, I want to take your eyes down to the last row where it says change in cash. You'll see what our actual was and how far above what we thought we were going to end the year with in terms of our cash. We were significantly above that. So it was a good budget year. I'm going to push you down just to our common fund performance. If you go down a couple of slides, and you'll see, if you go to the end, you'll see our year-to-date gains and losses, where our year-to-date gains are remarkable. We don't typically include this in our budget. And so one of the things that the Finance Committee and myself we're working on is like figuring out how to better leverage our gains, for our actually in real time budget. Which for our common fund, we have always budgeted 0 for that because that money is in the market, so it's volatile. Versus our ICS interest accounts, where those accounts, the interest rates are all fixed. So this is not volatile, right? It's only volatile in so much that you change the amount of money that you have in your bank account. And so you can see there, if you look at the last 2 columns, particularly what we budgeted for FY25, this is what we thought we would earn on interest. But when you look at the year-to-date gains, you'll see how much more we actually earned. So we're doing some movements in terms of our money to increase the amount of interest that we're able to accrue in real time so that we can better leverage those dollars and cents for the benefit of our students and staff and families. Any questions about that? Okay. With that, Kimber Hendricks, I'm going to punt back to you until it's time to talk about the data.
Okay, there are only 2 very brief points that I have in the board book. There are 2 forms that I want everyone to take a look on. That we have our individual, there's the long-term year-long board map, but then there's the board goals that have our goals kind of identified by the committee and how those what's not on there is how those will be measured. And so in our next meeting, I'm going to ask for some input on that, and I will likely follow on with our chair leads on how to make sure that we are evaluating ourselves against our board goals and making sure we have something to check in on to make sure that we are on the targets that we set for ourselves. The goals are very similar to what they were last year, with the exception of one change due to our environment, because that was one of a goal that we had around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that one was changed to tracking our strategic plan, which, because we have a new strategic plan, makes a lot of sense. And so in the interim between this meeting and our next one, if you have feedback or any questions, please let me know and reach out to me so that I can coordinate with you and we can make sure your feedback is incorporated into the map, which will be discussed in our next meeting. And then additionally, I will touch base with all of our committee chairs and leads so that we can make sure that we are evaluating and have some kind of metrics to do
to make sure that we are on track and on target. The second thing, and this is in your board book, is Manya included our conflict of interest form in the board book. Please make sure you fill that out prior to our September. I saw Manya's hand.
We're going to send that out via DocuSign or PandaDoc.
Oh.
I'm going to talk to my business manager and see what's what, but it
Even
correlates with the vendor list for school year 24-25. So everybody who we spent more than $5,000 with, that's who we need to make sure nobody else has any affiliations with. So
That's perfect. So I rescind what I said. Please do take a look at it just so you know if you have conflicts of interest, so that when Manya sends around the one that allows us to do an e-sign rather than a wet signature, that you will be able to do that pretty quickly, and we will have those in. And that is all I have. Oh, one more thing as we transition, because we are not ending the meeting right here. We voted in June to do a closed session. So at this point, we are going to transition into the closed portion of our meeting so that we can review the embargoed data that was released for the student data.
There's no vote needed to close the meeting?
No.
we
Okay.
voted in August.
We voted.
It's in the board book, the everything that's been approved.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Bundy, will you refresh your slide deck and then yeah, will you refresh the slide deck and then let's go.
Give me 1 second. So this
Ma-
has been adjourned, so I'm going to take it off of YouTube, right?
Okay.
All
Yep.
right.
Yes, because this is the closed